Welcome, friends, to GameMasters Studio, where we talk shop about running tabletop role-playing games. With us today is Jared and Ed, with your host, Jerry.
Hello, welcome to the GameMasters Studio, where we're going to be talking about tabletop role-playing games and a variety of tips, tricks, and ideas to help you run your own games and hopefully improve and make those run a little bit smoother. We will be talking about a variety of role-playing games. We'll be talking quite a bit about Dungeons & Dragons being one of the longest running and most prolific role-playing games available today. However, we are going to be talking a variety of other games as well, venturing into Warhammer, World of Darkness, Exalted, and a variety of others. However, a lot of these tips and tricks work regardless of the gaming system that you're in. Since this is our first episode, we actually wanted to take a minute and explain where this all came from. Several years ago, we had a group of friends. We're each running games for different groups, and we'd get together on the weekends every now and then and just start working on our own individual games, kicking ideas off of each other, throwing out topics and discussion, discussing the issues we're having and how to help resolve them, kind of keeping everybody on task and helping everybody input and make their own games better. This ran consecutively for quite a while, and we decided to expand out, start doing this podcast along with some other items to help kind of share those tips and bring it into a wider community as a whole. Today, being the first episode, we're going to be talking about the most basic part of gaming, having a game group, and that is, how do you get a game group? How do you set up? How do you make it run? How do you keep it going? With us on the panel today, we have the three of us with a combined GM experience of over 6 decades. My name is Jerry, aka Frieden, if you're looking at the online sites. I am a DM of nearly 3 decades experience, and our host today. With me is Jared, aka dm.f, proprietor of Mad Doc Designs, creator of the World of Wrath, and semi-professional DM with over 2 decades of experience, and Ed.
I'm here.
So, today, like I said, we're talking about starting up a game group. We've had discussions on this. Everybody hits a point in their life where they don't have a game going on that they wish they did. And really, we've come down to summarize it up all in one rule. The one rule of setting up the game group: go out and do it.
Just do it.
So, the most important thing I would say when setting up a game group is to set a time, set a date, set a place, get people going. Even if you don't have everybody you want, even if you don't have as much as you want, I think it's important to get it started, get it rolling, and let that momentum pick things up as you go along.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really kind of feel the dreams moment. If you build it, they will come. I've had several games start out very small, but the second the game is actually in motion and running, everybody and their brother and their mother and their third cousin-in-law wants to join the game.
It's true. Actually, just a recent game I started kind of getting the word out there for. Once I got a core group, I also got like 3 or 4 other requests because it's a local game.
Yeah, everyone likes the idea of a running game. A lot of people talk shop. A lot of people know how to talk the talk, but walking the walk. As soon as you're walking the walk, everyone wants to come along for the ride because they've heard the you want to do a game? Oh yeah, I want to do a game. Yep, I've heard that before. Oh, your game's actually running? Can I join?
Yeah, we've had games start up, and we start with just 3 people, and within a couple months, you've got every seat at the table filled. Everybody wants to join a group, but people don't want to put in the work to starting one. So putting in that effort not only shows you're committed, but you're doing what everybody else around that could be competing with you isn't.
Right.
So I think that's really important to go out and do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the number one rule. Like you said, just do it. Start the group, it will grow.
Yeah, I lived out of state for a while, and after a few years of just not having a group that was able to work together and run, I just started going to a local gaming shop in the hopes of finding something there. I thought that maybe if I was able to get into another group and if they were halfway decent, I'd start running for them and, at some point, plus, you get to play. So certainly, I'd think, if it's just you looking for something else, local game shops are definitely a great way to go.
Yeah, and we kind of have that issue there of setting up your own game group versus finding a new group.
Right.
Or, sorry, finding an existing group. Setting up your own group, you're doing a lot of the work, but you also get that advantage of quality control. Yeah. If you have somebody that you know isn't going to mesh with your people, whether it's different gaming styles or personality, or let's be honest, because we are talking about sometimes less than socially exquisite people, it may even be a hygiene or personality issue, you can kind of screen those out. If you're going to join a game group, then you're the odd man out coming in. You need to fit to them.
Definitely.
Well, odd man or woman out. We really can't. Even though it's stereotypical, single-gendered gaming, we can't deny the fact that actually both sexes do enjoy the game.
Yeah, I actually tend to have more female players in my game, oddly enough. I never thought I'd be able to say that. But in the last couple of years, we've had at least several females at our table, if not the majority of them being female, depending on the session. Not on a game-to-game basis, but on a session-to-session basis, because sometimes so-and-so can't make it. But I've actually had females be on, the pushing the 50% mark, if not the dominant of the two genders, which I think is a great thing. I think that's just awesome.
I don't think I've had an all single gender, so all male or all female group. Well, I've never had an all female group, but I had an all male group since high school. As long as you're willing to be open and accept them, everybody's welcome at the table.
Yeah, I'm used to having all male groups. Most of my life has been all male groups, but again, the last couple of years, had a lot of females at the table, and a lot of that just comes down to recruiting. So
you give them a shot, they're willing to. It's actually very useful because you can find a lot of female gamers who aren't given the chance. People just assume they don't, and so if you're open about that, you'll also find, I think, the most common response that we've got when we're talking to females about joining the group, whether friends or coworkers or that, it's very common of like, oh yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of this gaming, but I never got a chance to. I never had the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Would you mind if I came in and checked it out? And those actually become some of our best gamers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that stigma attached to it, attached to gaming. It's just a bunch of, smelly nerds in their basement, playing make-believe, but it's not really. We know that's not what it is. Most gamers or anyone listening to this, knows that's not what it is. But when that stigma is out there, and also being satanic cultists throughout the 80s, it's kind of hard to break those tropes in people's minds. So it's if you have that sort of thing going around, then yeah, there's going to be a large group of people who don't even either know that it's a thing or know that it's a thing that they might like. So
in my experience, I've had a wide variety of participants around the game table. Not only the stereotypical socially inept nerd, but I've gamed with lawyers, I've gamed with reporters, I've gamed with highly booked chefs, I've gamed with professional wrestlers, I've gamed with financial professionals, I've gamed with pizza delivery guys. It's all across the spectrum. It's really more of of bring the gang in, give everyone a chance, and everybody that wants a chance gets the shot.
D&D's come out of the shadows in the last few decades. I mean, it's becoming more and more of a common thing. People that never would have admitted it when they were younger are admitting it, in front of millions of viewers. I mean, you got Vin Diesel out there as a huge advocate for D&D. You got a lot of other big name actors out there that are actually, just openly, whether they're pushing it or not, they're just openly saying, yeah, I play Dungeons and Dragons. What about it? I'm an actor. Why wouldn't I? That's a great, forum for them to practice their role-playing skills.
And you see it showing up in the media as well. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Big Bang Theory, even though personally I'm not a fan. And there's been some other shows that have had the characters in the show playing Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. That's helped give it exposure that it didn't previously have.
Yeah.
So you can find a wide variety. And it's also, being that it used to be a hobby that was exclusively attended by nerds and geeks and stuff, you have those people who understand what it's like to be ostracized. They know what it's like to be pushed out, to be marginalized, because of dealing with a lot of that stuff in high school with the cliques that they have to deal with. And so you find those people are also fairly open and welcoming because they know how bad it feels to be pushed aside.
And an interesting reverse of life, a lot of those kids that were geeks and nerds when they were in school are the cool kids now. You know, geeks are becoming the cool guys, you know.
I know I am.
It's just kind of the way that society is. You know, it used to be that, you know, oh, you're a nerd, well, then get away from me. But now it's like, oh, you're a nerd, you're smart, you're successful. You know, you're making money and you own, you know, Apple or, you know, Microsoft. Yeah, they're not the isolated people that they used to be. They're a lot more out in the open. They're more widely accepted. We're more widely accepted. So the game and its average typical player are more in the light than they ever used to be.
And so you really just want to keep an open mind when it comes to that. You can find gamers in all sorts of unlikely places. Actually, just a week or two ago, somebody in my game group I was out at the bar at, and they mentioned that they played, and this random drunk guy next to us was like, oh yeah, D&D, I want to play that, I want to get back, you guys, can I get in on that? At the time, you know, we're playing kind of a closed situation where we're booked up on space, so we weren't able to bring him in. But you know, you'll find them if you keep an open mind. You'll find new gamers wherever you go, and you should be able to find enough to set up a group.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why it used to feel like it was hard to find players was because it was such a secretive thing. It wasn't something you talked about in public. You didn't want other people to overhear your conversations, and now people are a lot more comfortable talking about it, whether it's just because we're older and we don't care, or just because we know that it's more accepted in society and not shunned upon as much, and, you know, it's, again, come out into the light. But now you can talk about it in public, and people will overhear you and go, "Oh, Dungeons and Dragons! I played Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid. Oh, hey man, I haven't played in years. I would love to play again. Like, you guys get a spot in your game. Next thing you know, again, you're cramming chairs around your table. You can't even. You're like, oh man, I'm going to split this up into 2 different games.
And you also just have to keep your eyes and ears out. Some people are going to be, oh, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, I heard about that. I want to play. Or, you know, really any game, Vampire, Werewolf, Exalted, Warhammer, whatever. But if you be aware, if you stay aware, you can see things going on. I remember working at a wrestling federation. I was working backstage, and one of the wrestlers mentioned to somebody else about having to make a fort save. You know, right there, that clicks. That's a D&D term. I know that guy's a gamer. You know, there's the girl at work who's sitting at lunch reading a Dragonlance novel. You know, other people, it's like, oh yeah, it's like Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones. That's popular on HBO, right? But Dragonlance is very specifically a gaming situation. And so maybe, you know, you see that person reading the book, ask them if they play. They may be looking for a group. They may have a group already that maybe you can join. Joining multiple groups can be a fun way to get involved, meet different people, meet new people. And if you're always running, you go to another group and get a chance to play. Get a chance to get some of that stress off and maybe get some ideas for your own game, refresh your own creative juices, as it were.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to starting your a group, I really think it just comes down to just be open, advertise, ask around, ask your friends to mention to their other friends, you know, to friends that you might not know. Yeah. Ask at work, just, hey, I'm looking to get a game together. You ever play Dungeons & Dragons? You into role-play? And then just don't leave it at that. Make sure you clarify a little bit. You know, add some extra substance to something that might trigger a keyword for someone that, like, do you like fantasy novels? Are you into magic? Do you like Game of Thrones? Do you like, you know, the last Witch Hunter movie that just came out? Do you like this? Do you like that? Oh, yeah, that seems really cool. Oh, well, Dungeons & Dragons, you get to do that kind of stuff. Oh, that seems really cool. You know, maybe I'll check it out. Come on over and check it out. We should get a game together. And then, like Jerry said in the beginning of the show, set a time, set a place, set a date. This is when we're starting. Don't talk about it in hypotheticals for 3 months until everyone's lost interest. You set a time, start it. Hey, you know what? Next Saturday, noon, my place. Why don't we all get together? We'll sit down, we'll make some characters, and we'll play a game. See what happens. You only need 2 or 3 people. If you're running the game, you're the DM, you're the GM. 2 people, 3 people, just get the game started. And once, like we said, once the game's in motion, If you build it, they will come. You'll have more players than you know what to do with.
Talking around can also help you fix some of those issues that may be hindering you getting a game started. A couple of years ago, I was talking with some people at work, and I mentioned that I had a regular game going, but unfortunately, I had to drive an hour and a half every other week to go to this game. And that the game was a lot of fun. It's still a great group of people. I love them all. I can't go as often as I would like to because of that distance. I mentioned that I would like to find something local, but I don't know what time I'd be able to do it. I don't have the space to do it. I'm not ready to run a second game in addition to the game I was running up there. And while I was talking, somebody else chimed in with, "Oh yeah, I'd love to play. I have the space, but I don't know about running anything." And a third person goes, "I'd love to run a game. I don't have any space. I don't have any time." We just talked. We figured it out. We put it all together. Everybody solved each other's issues, and that group built together and is actually kind of still going in one incarnation or another.
Yep. That's how I got dragged back into it, folks.
Yeah, he was actually the one that said he had the space to do it.
I had the space to do it. And what's funny is I was actually very much against it. Well, I was reluctant, I should say, not very much against it, but it was one of those, like, I hadn't played in years, and I knew that the second I got drawn back in, I was going to be stuck. It's like crack.
I try to get out, but they keep pulling me back in.
And I told them what would happen, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up, dedicating most of my free time, and then what do you know? I start building the World of Wrath. I start DMing.
Crazy ideas like building a podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, those sorts of things. Yeah, no, I never spent a lot of time outside of gaming, as in not gaming, I should say, that I really that I wasn't looking for a group of some sort. I did sort of have that at one point, as we'd set up a group, me and a friend of mine who would game together, and then we decided to add his stepdaughter, and we kind of ran like a mini game there. So I want to bring up the point a little bit of gaming with people who are family members, either your own or who know each other, and the different dynamics there. Like in this case, they had a little bit of tension and to blow up at each other sometimes.
I had a similar interesting case where I was running a game for my best friend, really, and part of it was he wanted to help his son see, because we do this gaming all the time. His son knows roughly what it is, but wasn't actually at the table for any of the games. So we set up a game with him, his wife, and his son, and we started playing, and there was a little bit of issues there breaking out of that family dynamic. The son can go and do stuff that's maybe not optimal choices, but he can do it without needing his parents to say it's okay to go do that. And at one point, my friend kind of started to reflexively scold him, being the dad, the kid does something a little silly, and he started to say that, and I stepped in as the DM and go, no, this is okay for the character to do, right. Obviously, outside the game, he's your son, you can tell your son yes or no, but in the game, he's another player, and you need to learn to treat him as such.
Yeah. Which
also helped, I think, change their dynamic a little bit, because now the son at least had one place where he was on equal footing with the parents, and I think that might help smooth things as well, because now you're not always in that subordinate follower mode. So
yeah, family, direct family, and extended family is definitely another place where you can recruit players. If you have a cousin, or your mother likes to read fantasy novels, or anything like that, you can always try to recruit family members. I mean, make sure that the dynamic's going to work around the table, obviously. I might recommend extended family over direct family, just because you have less dynamic there with authority, so to speak. But
speaking of group dynamics, we also have to look at, we mentioned briefly, the possibility of joining an existing game group rather than setting up your own. I did have a situation, I think it was about a decade ago, where I wasn't involved with the group that I had been involved with for a while. I didn't have any gaming going on because they were They were playing a game that I wasn't currently interested in, so I just wasn't involved there. But I still wanted to have a game going. So I had to go out and find a game on my own and meet new people. And again, we're looking at the stereotype of gamers being socially awkward. I am not necessarily the most outgoing person. But I met these people online through Craigslist. Apparently it is just used for more than just random hookups, to find this game group and go in and show up at this college dorm, and I'm going to meet these people for the first time. We're going to sit down and play. It was really awkward until the dice started rolling. Then it got to be a lot of fun because no longer am I'm Jerry. Hi, let me introduce myself. It's now I am Krager, cleric, and going in and introducing myself to people that I've never met anyway because my characters never met any of their characters, and it helped connect it. And some of the guys really kind of cool, and we had some fun friendships out of it. Had some games come out of it, so I was really lucky to be able to find a group. You also have to be aware that when you find a group, it may not be the right one for you. You've got to be willing to look at the group, and if it doesn't fit what you're looking for, if it doesn't match your dynamic, you need to step away. We've used gaming interviews in groups that I've had in the past. Somebody wants to join the group, we'll get somebody who's willing from the group who's willing to GM and a couple of the players and run a one-off. Invite the new person in, see how they play, see how they mix with the group, get a little bit of discussion. We had one guy we were a little bit wary about. Some of his emails, punctuation and spelling wasn't that great. Maybe his character concept was a little bit off. Little wary on it. But then we brought him in for a game. We had a ton of fun. We're joking. By the end of it, we have in-jokes amongst ourselves. There's still a story that I like to tell from there about him convincing a shopkeeper that a hand grenade going off outside was actually traffic backfiring. And the guy wound up joining our group, becoming a core member, and it was just a great experience all around. If we had just looked at the emails, his spelling, his punctuation, we wouldn't have given him the chance.
Right. But at the same time, I remember being a fledgling gamer, and I was looking for a group, and I found myself in a group, and for the most part, the group was just fine. But there was this gamer that I remember who. Any sort of slight that you would make towards her character should take personally and then fly off the handle. So you do have to worry about the potential, of course, of, when you go into a group, keep in mind, these people have been playing together, they might have their own style. And, even that being said, you might come across the kind of gamer, maybe doesn't work well with you, but they might still be able to function in the group. There might be someone there, and there was an anchor who would kind of bring that person back down. So,
well, when you're moving into an existing group dynamic, you have to realize, as the outsider, they have the right to say, you're not working, you're not fitting in.
Right.
And you can't take that personally. But also as the individual, you have to be willing to say, I really want a gaming group, but this isn't the right group for me.
Right.
And be willing to walk away if things don't come together.
Yeah, you should be able to walk away. But at the same time, it's also a nice exercise to see how adaptable you are to a group. Like when I joined up with the group on Roll20.net, it wasn't me joining a group. It was the group coming together for the first time, but we were all just meeting each other through the forums on Roll20.net. So we were all kind of getting to know each other. We had like a week or two of prep while the DM was kind of getting to know us a little bit out of game, talking with us, working on our characters and such. And the players had a little bit of interaction prior to the game also. But it really was kind of, for me, like I saw it as an exercise. It was a nice opportunity for me to step back, not being the DM, and also not having to worry about, okay, I don't know any of these people in real life. They're not friends. I can look at this from purely a gaming, and role-playing and player aspect.
Right.
And it was a chance for me to really kind of learn to shut up and take a step back for a second. There was a player in the group that was very overbearing, and normally I would have probably handled things a little bit differently. as a DM, I definitely would have handled things differently than the DM handled anything. The things different, and then the DM did handle things. I'm sorry, not to say that he handled anything incorrectly, just to say that I would have handled it differently. But it was a chance for me to just kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to sit back, relax, enjoy the show, go with the flow. I had nothing invested in it. The kid wanted to talk 99% of the time, and that's fine. And whenever there was a 0.5% chance for me to get in there, I'd get in there and I'd role play. If the DM addressed me, I'd role play a little bit. But it was just, a chance for me to kind of adapt to the situation. It's kind of how I saw it. If this was going to be a long-term, long-running game, it would have been one that I would have stepped away from because it wasn't really 100% my cup of tea. But it was different, and I really liked that. Because again, it wasn't in a group of friends or fellow gamers that I was used to playing with. It was me getting a chance to step outside my box and outside my comfort zone and see another DM in action that I had never met before in my life. And most of the players in the game all claim to be DMs also. So just kind of getting everyone's 2 cents and perspectives on things was very, I thought it was a good learning experience personally.
Yeah. And I don't know, to kind of go on to what you're saying here, it's not always that you're going to find, players or GMs or whatever that you don't like. Sometimes it's just the style might not be for you. I know players who love the role-playing aspect, or even the puzzle aspect of playing in a game, but aren't really fond on the action. And if you are the kind of GM, or whoever's running is the kind of GM that just loves the action and the combat, then I guess as a player, you have to identify, okay, well, this might not be the GM for me or the group for me. Right. But as a GM, you should also identify that this person likes the role-playing part. I really should throw something in there for them to get them.
I think we're going to be covering that in another episode where we're going to be talking about identifying player types and how to try to appeal to the group as the DM.
Yeah.
But again, from this point of view for this discussion, as a player, that's absolutely correct. If you walk into a situation, this group is really used to just being a hack and slash group. That's what the DM's used to running. That's what all the players want except me. I'm not the right fit here.
Exactly.
I should just walk away. I shouldn't try to assume that they're going to change to me. I should just find the right group for me.
And that's what I was kind of coming around to is identify if the group that you're joining or forming is going to work together either with you or if you're, if it's not going to fit or whatnot, just because there are so many different styles out there. Yeah. You've got to keep an open mind to that.
There's also another point, which was really kind of brought up when you were talking earlier about the dynamics of the group and the dynamics of personality, is you also have to be aware going in that you have the chance that the game that you have is going to change the dynamic that you may have with somebody. It's very likely that you may clash in game, and someone that you were a friend with outside of the game may take what happens in the game personally. I personally had an issue where things with someone that I was on relatively good terms with started to go downhill because of things that happened in game. I don't want to dwell on it too much, so I don't want to bring up the details on it, but we kind of wound up going on the splits from being fairly good friends for a while, and it all started because we disagreed over something that was happening in the game. And that built and aggravated it. And I'm sure, I'm not the only one who's lost a friend over the gaming table. You need to be aware that sometimes these people are going to change.
Yeah.
Your good friendships, your really strong friendships, you should be able to carry through that. And it shouldn't have an issue, but sometimes crap's going to happen, and it's going to mess up what you thought may have been a good friendship.
Yep, it's true.
And that actually, for me, was what led to me, okay, I've got to go out and find another group because I don't want this to snowball and ruin all my other friendships.
And that's where it kind of comes down to, you need to identify the situation and take a step back from it. That's your best bet. This group isn't the right group for me for whatever reason. There's a variety of reasons. No one reason's ever going to be the same case for everybody, but because of reason X, Y, or Z, this isn't working out. I should just take a step back and leave this group, or at least take a step. Talk with the DM, have a little chit chat with the DM 101. But a lot of times, players and DMs or players try to force themselves into a group just because they are all gamers and they do all want to play. and they'll try to fit together. They're trying to put puzzle pieces together that are from different sets.
Right.
You're trying to cram those together just because, they're puzzle pieces.
One poor experience I had as a GM was when I tried to do a one-shot with half the people from one of my gaming groups and half the people from the other gaming groups and put them together, and that was not a group that mixed well.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have your different player styles and your different GM styles. That's what it's really going to come down to. Sometimes it's personality. If your personality meshes, but the players are, you got your, you got your power gamer here, or you got your role player there, or whatever. If their personalities outside mesh and everyone gets along during the game, you can make it work.
Yeah.
So it does. I guess it's a mix. It comes down to the two, a number of different things, but
like so many aspects of GMing, it's about making it up and adapting on the fly and figuring out how to make it work for everybody.
And as a player, taking responsibility as a player too, knowing your place. Do I fit? Should I leave? No, but
so that was kind of what we wanted to cover for today: setting up a group, the work on it, and some of the pitfalls of finding players, joining groups. We're going to be putting out podcasts on a pretty regular basis. Check back for new episodes as we get them up. We'll also have more information available on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Definitely feel free to like, comment, subscribe on those. And we will see you the next time that we sit down to do another one of these games.